your time, you might not remember me or never heard of me, but yeah,
Yeah. What did
too old school.
who did we have on? Somebody call it. What did they call you? It was what's her name? Uh, she called you something, not Phil or Bill or something like that. I can't remember what. Natalie,
Well,
Natalia. She called you something.
well, I
Called
was sure a
Phil
big fan
something.
of Phil growing up, so
Mhm.
so Steve, I I wish I would have known more about you and introduced myself because I saw you competing before, and
Yeah.
I did research a little bit about you today, and I'm amazed. I mean, you had some crazy good results, but I was also amazed the struggle to get a pro card. I mean,
Yeah.
you were going at it year after year after year. Was this because you didn't work out that long, or did it just take a bit longer? What was going on that it took you a few years to get to that pro card?
Back when I started, I guess I started young. I started competing at 18, doing the teen nationals and collegiates, and then at 20, 21, I did. I'm a believer, like, you need to go along the path correctly as far as doing the shows, like starting off at your state level show, winning an overall, not just like, I placed top third, I'm going to go to nationals and try to turn pro. So at 21, there was a pro-am in Detroit, Michigan that I won the overall at 20 years old. And that kind of set me up to go on to the national level. And from there, I did North Americans. And, I was 21, 22, 23, competing against guys, 35, and they're in kind of a different level of muscle maturity. But the potential was there for me. So it just took, 4, 5, 6 good years of dialing things in, learning my body, maturing the muscle, working with the right coaches. And then, at that time too, there was only three pro cards a year given out. There was the overall at the top two overall at USA's, and then the top at the overall of each class at nationals. So I wanted the USA title, which was only two. So ended up finally locking that one in.
Now,
Yeah, congratulations. And so you were fully ready because I could tell when I looked at your pro results, you were kind of hitting it. You were great right away. Tell me a little bit about your first pro show and how that went and how you felt about that.
First pro show, I wanted to come out at the New York Pro. And it's funny. I always feel like the shows I did through my career, guys always showed up at some of their best condition. And to me, that show was Cedric McMillan's one of his best shows ever. And he ended up winning he had winning the New York Pro. I think it was a 2012 or 2013 New York Pro. But for me, it was like, you know what, I want to go and make a statement. I train for it like it's the Mr. Olympia. Like, it's kind of like you hit the turning pro, you hit the top of what the amateur ranks are, and then turning pro puts you back down. You got to climb that mountain again. So for me, it was like, I wanted to make the impression that I wanted to be like, this guy has potential, and he fulfilled his potential, not just potential.
How did you place third, or how did you
I got
place
third. It was Cedric, Johnny, then myself.
Was that direct qualifier for the Olympia?
That did not qualify me for the Olympia.
No.
The next year, I went on and did the Europa Pro and won the Europa, and that qualified me for the Olympia.
It used to be top 5. I think my time was top 5 Arnold's and New York Pro, top 10 at the Olympia, or then winning the smaller shows. But top 5, it meant you had to kind of get around 4 guys who were already qualified. So everybody was always competing.
Yeah.
So what was your weight when you became pro compared to your very best showings of in the last couple of years?
I turned pro in my, I think, low to mid 250s on stage. And then in the last few years, I've been competing in the 275 to 285 range. So with about a 10-year span, increased stage weight about 30 pounds.
So you came up in an era.
Foot.
Yeah.
You came up in an era where gurus were there from the beginning. You just didn't have to kind of like me ask the guy on the machine next to you. So you had coaches from early on.
I did. My first training partner was Justin Harris through Chapona Nutrition, and we trained together at the same gym. And then he ended up kind of taking me on. I had no idea what I was doing at 18, 19 years old. And he kind of gave me my first diet, and I just absolutely, my body just was a sponge and blew up at that age. And then it just progressed. Always had coaches through my preps because I just felt like prep stressful enough, and not that I couldn't do it myself. I felt like if I trusted somebody to what their methodologies were and what they did, to me it felt like take some of that stress off and give them the Art Atwood was actually one of my coaches early on, and I think you competed with Art Atwood.
Remember him?
Yeah, Art was awesome. Art, great friend of mine, and he trained me for like 3 years. It was the USA's 2 years in a row, and then the Nationals 2 years in a row. So, and then Hani and I got together when I turned pro. USA's.
Mm-hmm. Phil, what's your first coach?
No coach.
In the 30s. They didn't have coaches in the 30s?
No coach. We had a guy who would give you advice, and if you listened, right?
Yeah.
It may or may not work. But it was a guessing game.
I was hoping you'd say Sando or Steve Reeves or something like that.
Yeah. Steve Reeves.
Actually, there was a guy named George Turner, who most of you never hear about, that trained Samir, Ken Waller, Tony Pearson, myself, and there'd be a few other guys that he worked with.
That's going back old school there. Boy.
We're going back to the 70s, baby.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Steve, we had Lee Haney here a week ago, who was the first pro I seen. I've seen Tom Platz in seminars before. The first pro I really seen when I was 19, in good shape. Who was your first pro and you met or you saw in good shape on stage? And how did you feel when you saw that back then?
It's fun. I got a funny story about that. Actually, the first pro I ever saw, like in person on stage, I used to go to the Arnold's because I lived in Michigan when I grew up. So at 16, 17, I'd get a few buddies together. We get in a car and we drive down and get tickets to go see, the Arnold Classics. And, I remember seeing guys like Chris Cormier and Flex Wheeler and Jay in the early days, like those guys on stage from a distance, but to see somebody up close is really different. And the first guest poser I ever saw was at my first show was Craig Titus. And the history of Craig Titus.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
But yeah. I remember backstage and he was talking about like what he does before he gets on stage and all this junk food he would eat. At 18, I remember looking at him like, is this guy for real? Is he full of shit? Like, you just wonder if he's messing with us. But he was the first guy. And then one of the next shows I did was Chris Cook, who I actually ran into Chris Cook last weekend here in Dallas. He lives in Dallas now. And I remember seeing him and just being blown away by like the sheer size of like, how do you get that big kind of, just right. But with a lot of admiration for it and being like, one day I want to get to that point. And then I saw I saw Ronnie Coleman guest pose, and I seen, you just start seeing the guys guest pose at the local shows because guest posing was so big back in the day. It's a shame it's kind of gone away, but seeing those guys really it put the bug in me, or inspired me to get to the level that I'm at now.
Let me ask you this, Steve. Now I'm gonna go back a bit. When did you start training? How old were you?
I started training in high school. When I got to high school, really focused for sports, heavy sport training. Mainly football and hockey were my two sports, and I really enjoyed. I was strong. I got good results. You know, when you start like getting those pumps, feel like, man, this is kind of fun. You know, feel their arms getting swole, your shirt's a little tighter at, you know, 14, 15, 16 years old. So I really got that. I really want to take it to the next level. I would say probably 17 is when I was like, this is something I really want to pursue more.
So that got you into bodybuilding.
Yeah.
And when was your first? You say you competed as a teenager.
First show at 18, correct?
04, right?
Yeah.
Now, when did you start? When did you become a fireman? What year?
06.
06. So were you a pro when you were still a fireman?
Yeah. I turned pro. Kind of the story behind that was I turned pro working the busiest station and ambulance in the city of Dallas, and it, like, you know, up 24 hours a day, working my ass off, you know, just running my body into the ground at work and then running my body in the ground for prep. So it really taught me a lot about what I could handle. So yeah, I was pro probably 3 years before I decided to retire from the firefighter side and pursue bodybuilding full time.
So you weren't far from Ronnie then. Ronnie was working over, and where was he at?
Arlington.
Arlington as a police officer.
30 minutes away.
30 minutes away, and you were the fireman over there. Oh, that's pretty cool. Yeah.
Now, Steve, you started in Detroit. Is that right?
That's correct.
Now, were you familiar with, of course, you're familiar with the Powerhouse Gym there, the original.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I trained at one of the Powerhouse branches. Was my first gym. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I worked at a Powerhouse Gym that started and closed a year later in Lincoln Park. I was there for about 8 or 9 months. We're going back to 1988 or 89, maybe.
Yeah. That is, yeah, oh yeah, but those gyms were kind of, you had the golds that went out in Venice, but the Powerhouses were their own iconic meccas, especially of that area.
That's Ron Love's stomping ground up there.
Yeah,
right, exactly. Now you turned pro by winning the was it the USA or the Nationals?
USA.
What year?
2011.
Oh, okay. Wow.
So just a year ago, at this time you were prepping for the Arnolds. Yeah. And are you done now, or what's your plan?
The plan at this point, my wife and I, we both want to start a family and have baby Kuclo on the way. So back in August, actually it was probably June or July that we got pregnant, and then we lost the baby about 8 weeks later. So we really want to continue that journey, and you know how it is. We got to make sure my body's as fertile as can be, and making sure that hormonally everything is right. So I'm giving my body a rest from that side of the sport, and just making, you know, I'm still training, still love the lifestyle, but for me, it's making sure my body's optimized for reproduction.
There is a possibility at some point you come back, or did you close that chapter?
I'm not ruling it out. I absolutely love, you know, there's a passion I have for the sport. Everything that I've kind of built and done in my life has been focused around bodybuilding, and I feel if there's enough fuel in the tank, I'm willing to definitely give it another run, for sure.
How old are you now? Sorry, Phil. How old are you now, Steve?
37.
Oh my God.
Okay.
You know, they're winning titles in the mid-40s now.
I was gonna say, man, you're still
yeah, but I don't want to be Ronnie Coleman walking around.
Hey, Steve, I was there when you won the California Pro. I was with Don Long, and that was in LA. What year was that? 2014 or 15? I can't remember exactly.
One of those, I think 15 maybe. 15.
I might have been 15. I saw you there, and Don introduced me to you. You won't remember it, of course, because of course you're getting ready to go on stage, and your mind is somewhere else. Sure. But we did meet just for a moment.
Okay. Now you look familiar when you say that. Like, when I was like, I remember faces. There's the people like, do you remember my name? I was like, maybe not your name, but I remember your face.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I'm terrible at names.
Yeah.
So I have a question about a little bit more training and nutrition and that kind of stuff. When did you start working with Rambo or Honey?
2000, the end of 2010.
Did he already use his FST7?
No, I started incorporating it when we started training together.
So tell me a little bit about that and how you incorporated that.
When I worked with Hani, because we kind of had a really unique deal, because when he was starting Evogen, a supplement company, I ended up being one of his first athletes that he signed on. So we had a close relationship with working as an athlete, sponsored athlete for Evogen, and then also working with him for FST7 training. And he kind of we kept it under one roof, which really worked out nice. Hani's he's an amazing trainer, and he knows his stuff. His approach is very different than most trainers. I mean, he's one of the guys that will never tell you good job until you like one again. So he definitely drives you and pushes you. Incorporating his training was, I think, one of the it definitely took my physique to that next level, because I always looked at it like three things. There's three things that you could change your physique. It would be, what you do in your diet, and there's only so much food you can eat when you're prepping and et cetera. Supplementation, PEDs, stuff like that. How much you're willing to do. There's everything. Everybody's got to cut off at some point. And then the other variant is training. And anytime I've changed my training throughout my preps and throughout my career into something new, my body's really responded. And that's kind of where I went into when I trained with Gina Davis. Now her training methodologies transform my physique to the next level.
So I tried to look into that a little bit closer a couple of years ago, this FST7. So do I understand that right, that you still have your regular workouts, but then you choose like one or two body parts for 4 weeks, once a week, where you do the extra 7 sets pretty fast at the end? Do I understand that right?
Yeah, that's accurate. It's kind of like, were you familiar with some of Art and Milos's stuff, like the sarcoplasmic training, like the giant sets at the end of a workout? Like it's a similar methodology with it. Yeah.
Is what I did is I always kind of trained my body in off season, Monday to Thursday. And then on the weekend, I worked on weaknesses. And today I kind of do something similar, but on the second workout for a certain body part, which always changes from time to time, I love to use the BFR blood flow restriction bands. I don't know if you ever heard of them. It's just absolutely.
Yeah, I started doing that with Hani as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I wish I would have had them back in the days, because I remember in '98 when my patella tendon started hurting, and I had to kind of find a way to work out different to keep my legs still big. So I talked to Lila Brother, and he said to me, look, you don't need to do all this heavy stuff. You can just focus more on form, the negative motion. And I did, and it totally didn't work for me. So I went back to the photo shoot for the '98 Olympia, and Chris Lunt, the first thing he said to me, what did you do with your legs? And I thought, wow, he must be impressed. I said, so good, huh? He's like, no, it's not good. So I can only imagine, in that time when I had to come off the super heavy weights a little bit, using BFR bands would have probably kept my legs bigger for a while.
Yeah.
But it's been a long time. So I'm just hardly see people using the BFR bands. So I'm happy to hear you did use them. Did you ever use the newbie machine?
I have, yeah.
How do you feel about that?
I go back to, all this new technology and new methods and, kind of getting over scientific with things. And then I go back to guys like, let's look at Ronnie Coleman and Dorian Yates and Lee Haney. And let's just go back in time a little bit. There was none of that going on. These guys had incredible physiques. Like they were onto something.
You're right, but we gotta create the next Ronnie and Dorian without the muscle tears.
That is very true. I think there's value to it. I haven't seen anybody. I'm not 100% sold on it. Do I think it works and it's probably beneficial for recovery? I know people that have accelerated their recovery after injury, like a pec tear, et cetera. But I think just good old hardcore training is nothing.
He will never replace that.
Let me ask you guys this: is a newbie machine? Are we talking about electronic stimulation?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Because I'm lost.
Mm-hmm.
I saw on your I saw somewhere today that you have quite some businesses going. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, no, for sure. So I think in we all love bodybuilding. We all are gym rats, but you know, that's a very expensive hobby or what ends up being a career. Like if you want to spend the amount of time in the gym and then, you know, the food it takes and supplements, like it's a very expensive sport. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. So my thing was like always, how do I fund what I want to do? And that's why I worked full-time as a firefighter for many years, until I got the endorsements and was making enough money to say, okay, I want to dedicate my full time into bodybuilding and be all in on that. And then seeing guys like Jay Cutler and many of the entrepreneurial type bodybuilders that were able to monetize and brand themselves and make money outside of just competing, you know, or just maybe one sponsorship, which back in the day was great. Back in the day when guys would get, you know, high six-figure, mid-six-figure, you know, contracts. Now, you know, you're lucky if you get a $40,000 or $50,000 contract from a supplement company, you know, if they're even looking for athletes anymore, because there's all these ambassadors. Just things have changed. So for me, I love the branding and business side. I really got an acumen for it. And I aligned myself with some really great people, friends of mine, and that ended up being kind of coaches or mentors for me. And I took everything that I enjoyed and I kind of created business out of that. First, you know, I did some apparel stuff where I had my own shirts and would travel with stuff, sell shirts and merchandise. And that was really good. And then I kind of took that, what I learned, and then I started an even bigger apparel business at one point. And then I got into promotion of my own bodybuilding shows. I ran ahead of my own supplement store at one time. Like everything I've done has been very fitness oriented. And I think that's what makes it work for me. It's not like I'm trying to go into, you know, selling guitars in Guitar Center or owning my own guitar store when I really don't know anything about guitars. Like everything is very fitness oriented. And so, but learning about business, expanding that, you know, I've gotten involved in several new companies in the recent. I've partnered with a friend of mine doing a organic biostimulant products for plants to help improve soil, like just some different things that I'm trying to, you know, get my hands into that I have interest in, that I think can really impact the world and impact things, not just, you know, not small things. The next is like doing personal development and coaching and leadership coaching. I think this world is full of we could say not so strong men, and we need stronger men in this world, and we need to, you know, create a more a better environment, a better people, and what more well-rounded. I think many things. So that's one of the things I'm getting into is putting on personal development masterminds. I have one coming up called Upgraded Human Mastermind, where I focus on not just business or not just health, but I do business, relationship, health, wellness, finance, business, like do all of them, or try to elevate and level up all those areas.
Wow.
That's very, very good.
Sounds like you stay busy, huh?
Let me ask you this, Steve. I mean, did you go to college? I mean, where do you come up with these ideas? Is it the people around you? Or
yeah, I went to school for a couple of years, for 2 years at University of Michigan for business, and I was going for actually engineering. And at the time, like things were just crazy between layoffs and companies weren't hiring, and it was kind of in that 04, 05, 06 where just the decline of the economy, and so that's when I pursued firefighting. I have a little school background, but to me, I think the best way to learn for me was always being hands-on and learning from experience and learning from mistakes, learning I think, you know, books can teach you so much, but at the end of the day,
Right.
you need to take some sweat equity to really learn.
Right.
So I have aligned myself with a lot of been very intelligent people, a lot of successful people, and I always like learning. I like watching them. What did they do? And that goes, you know, but business and bodybuilding, there's a lot of similarities or things like parallels with them. Like what you can take in the business world is things I've learned in the bodybuilding world with being consistent with it. With, you know what, if you have a bad day or you don't do as well as you wanted to show, like you don't let that destroy you. You learn from it and you go on. And you know, the amount of dedication and effort you put into things, you're going to see the more effort or hard work you put into it, it's gonna reap reward.
Right.
Then you have your own shows, huh?
Yes, I've had 3 right now of my own shows that I promote and put on. The big one I do in Dallas is in my 8th year coming up. The other 2 are pretty new, only a couple years in, but the Dallas show is my 8th year.
Is that the one in May?
That's one in May, yeah.
Okay.
So it's cool to see, you know, like taking everything I've learned with going to different shows and different experiences I have as a competitor, and then converting it into, you know, putting my own show on and giving back to the athletes. It's rewarding for sure.
How many competitors you have on the big show?
Pre-COVID, our biggest number was 460, which was really big
that's real good.
Show. And then COVID kind of hurt it, and we're getting right back up to that number again. We're right back to where we were pre-COVID.
Was that about 400 men's physique and 60 competitors?
What's kind of cool is my show like brings a lot of good. I mean, being a bodybuilder, I think guys that enjoy bodybuilding, we have a heavy bodybuilding show, which is cool. Like there's a lot more bodybuilders in our show.
That's good.
And because you know what, I take care of the guys. I make sure they get the stage time they want. I do really cool trophies and awards and prizes for everybody. So it's not just like, hey, here's a medal and give me your you know, entry fee. Like, I want to take care of these people.
That's good.
So I'm sure you have an opinion, you know, on the current shows. How did you see the last Olympia?
The last Olympia, I thought it was. I was good to see the direction change a little bit. I was happy to see that. I think if Big Ramy would have won, I think the fans, including myself, would have been a little bit disappointed because there was better on stage than him, which there was. I think it was judged very well. Past few Olympias may have, you know, obviously bodybuilding's subjective, so you're at the mercy of the judges what they want to see ultimately. Right. But I think, you know, having some new fresh physique up there, being a Mr. Olympia, Hadi looked phenomenal. I mean, he's hard as rocks, hard as nails. The dude just he brought it. What you need to do as Mr. Olympia. I think Derek has a ton of potential as well, and I think he's somebody that could really, you know, be a great representative, great physique. To me, I think Mr. Olympia needs to encompass more than just a big body. I think they need to be a true ambassador of the sport. You need to go around expanding, you know, the like people that need to know about bodybuilding is more than just, hey, some meatheads in the gym and getting on stage with a bunch of tan and oil. Like that's what people think. Like, you know, we need better, more mainstream reach into what bodybuilding can be. I think what social media has helped bodybuilding, but we need some voices for bodybuilding and to, you know, what the sport could really bring and help around the world.
What about?
I mean, ultimately, I think it was they made the right calls for the Olympia this year.
Yeah, in that sense, it did remind me a little bit on the '94 Olympia when they had the chance. You know, Dorian was off, his biceps was torn, and they had the chance to change the directions, but they chose not to. You know, in that sense, that was definitely I'm with you on that. Do you follow other categories, or how close do you follow other categories?
I have to say I'm a little partial to bodybuilding. I can't a little bit. I mean, I see some of the winners and stuff. You know, I could maybe give a little input, but I couldn't go down the lineup of the other categories.
Well, you know, I was hired by a German podcast to do the commentating for Classic, and I was never a fan of Classic, so I had to start looking really into it and study those names, you know, in the past, it was always kind of, I always felt when I saw a classic show, oh my God, the guy will be good in 2 or 3 years. Then I had to remind myself, no, that he's maxed out when it comes to weight. You know, I always looked at it as a bit of a junior bodybuilding class.
Yeah.
And I'm a huge fan of, you're probably not going to believe it, bikini wellness figure. You know, I'm a huge fan of that.
Those girls put in work. You know, I think the way the wellness physiques that are on stage, their legs are, I think majority of those girls' legs are better than 90% of the guys' legs that are competing right now.
They may have a higher pain tolerance for leg work.
That's true.
Very true.
Very true. What's your opinion on the 212 real quick? There's been a lot of talk. A lot of these guys, these old school guys have been saying that they want to do away with it.
I think it gives the guys that are 212 an opportunity to compete where they're going to have a little bit more of a level playing field. I think that because you look at the physique, like a guy that competes at 212 probably usually competes around 220, but he sucks down. But that 220 guy is really going to have a hell of a time competing against a guy that's 260 or 270 on stage plus, you know, you're giving up 50 pounds of muscle. It gives them an opportunity to compete. Do I think that they're going to, would they use as well in the open? Probably not.
Well, do you
Derek's a freak. He made the jump, but his body was ready for it.
Yeah, well, I mentioned that because you see Sean Clarita just mentioned if he wins the Arnold, he's going to do the open in the Olympia.
Wow.
So
he's giving up a lot of size. Yeah. I mean, the guy's a freak, no doubt.
Yeah.
Give me a take on that, or give me some tips about this Arnold coming up. Arnold in 3 weeks, I believe it is, 2.5 weeks.
Yeah, we're getting
how you see it, or especially how you see Clarita in this field, because we all know Clarita will look great. You know, I have no doubt about that. But how you see him in a field like this?
He's got some monsters to deal with. Like I competed against Andrew Jacked at the Texas Pro when he made his pro debut, and he's a big boy. And you know, not only is he structurally big, he's tall. I mean, he's probably a foot taller than Sean.
Right.
You know, and then you got, you know, Nick Walker is a monster as well. You know, he's probably got 40, 50 pounds on Sean there as well. It's a pretty big body physique, big body show when you think about it. When you've got Big Ramy, you have Samson, you have Akeem. Those guys are all competing at 270 plus in shape, and he's going to be giving up a lot of size.
So you don't see any chance for him to slip into the top 5?
Well, you know how it is. I mean, if everybody shows up on, I'm thinking he's going to have a very hard time. If people slip up and only bring 80%. And he's 100, he could definitely make his way into that top 5.
And someone always slips up.
Yeah.
Well, so he could be, he could do well.
Let me ask you guys this, and you guys have all been there. Is this going to hurt him that the Arnold is so close to the Olympia, or is it good?
I think it was for guys, like if I was to do, because I didn't do the Olympia, if I was to do the Arnold, it'd be a lot fresher. A lot of those guys are coming off they're just continuing prep from Arnold or from Olympia into the Arnold. I mean, that's hard on your body. It's hard mentally. It's hard physically. It's hard on your every part of your body is getting beat up.
If you give everything you got going to the Olympia, 110%,
which everybody
does, done,
typically.
You're going to be depleted and exhausted.
Yeah.
Now, is that enough time to rest, recover, and to get that mindset again to push 100%? I don't think so.
Well, I kind of disagree with you. You know, I think when I look at the competitor field, and assuming everybody is in great shape, I mean, you know, once the show starts, everything we talk about, we said that before, falls out the window anyway. You know, that it be some guys will not be in shape, but who this will hurt the most, this very short distance between the shows, in my opinion, will be Andrew, because Andrew is a guy who has weaknesses compared to his strengths. And there's just no way he could have worked on that in this short amount of time to bring those hamstrings, glutes, you know, that area kind of up. Where with Nick, it's all about, you know, filing on that physique and make it more streamlined. And for him, it's an advantage. Dauda, he wasn't in the greatest shape at the Olympia, but he has kind of everything. For him, it's an advantage too. So I could be wrong, but that's kind of how I see it. And I think motivation, you know, if the body doesn't kind of let you down, motivation will be fully there. You can hang on another 3 months. I don't think that's a big issue.
3 months is a long time, and it's not enough time to make visual improvements.
No,
it is, but
visual improvements.
Well, who is
it? Improvement you can make, not visual.
Yeah, no, you can't. But Phil, if you have a chance to win this, you talk about $300,000.
We're talking money, then okay.
Yeah. I mean, okay. Back in your days, did you guys get money?
They had to pay.
Gift cards.
Gift cards.
Phil, he's riding your ass tonight, man.
Gift cards. hey, I tell you what. Unless you won a show back then, or placed in the top 3 or 4, seriously, you were upside down. By the time you paid everything and prepared to go into the show, if you didn't place in the top 5, you lost money. You're upside down.
Well, it's not too different now, except the Arnolds and the Olympia. I think the smaller shows pay what, $10,000, and I think
the winner, and it goes down very fast after top 5. You're there's in a field of 20 guys. A lot of those shows, like Texas Pro, had like 22 guys. After top 5, you're not making any money. You're putting a lot of time, effort, and money into preps.
I'll tell you a real funny story. I'll make it short. When I won the Chicago Pro in '88, Wayne DeMilia came backstage. It was 10,000 first place. He said, due to poor ticket sales, the money first placer has been reduced to 5,000. And by the time I got that check and they took tax out, I can't remember what it was. But it was a waste of time.
Yeah.
In a sense, if you're looking for money.
Yeah, but you remember,
it's a shame. It's a shame for sure.
Remember we talked about that? He cut my checks all the time with some weird explanation.
Yeah, I remember you talking about that.
You told me that, yes.
Because I was the guy not speaking English, and what, you're gonna argue with him, and you sit in an office in Russia, and the check is way smaller than what you expect.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure it went into his pocket. So I'm not,
exactly. Dude.
Oh, I believe what happened in Chicago probably went in his pocket.
Yeah, probably. Steve, what is your take on, in the last couple of years, we had quite a few people dying, unfortunately. And what is your take on that? And how can that be prevented, or what can the federation do?
It has been a rest everybody in peace that's passed, but you got to start looking at what's the kind of maybe the root cause. I think in general bodybuilding is healthy, but there's a lot of unhealthy stuff that goes on in bodybuilding, especially when you're pushing your body to extremes levels of dehydration, body fat levels, supplement use, all that stuff, and my hope was that I think the extremes get pulled back just a little bit. I think because every year it just seems like a conditioning level they just want to push a little bit more. How dry can we get? And there's a lot of the women's divisions have gotten so very extreme with how conditioned these women are getting, and women's bodies aren't made to get that low body fat, but they're doing it. But I think there's a lot of other things that people may overlook or not think about. I think when you see what went on in the world with, I'm going to say it, we'll just call it the jab. I think the jab changed a lot of things in the way the blood works in these people. I think if you're using performance enhancing supplements, your blood is going to change. And then you add this other variant in there, which is also going to potentially change the blood and cause issues like heart attacks, cause issues like stroke, blood pressure issues, a lot of these things that guys never really, had issues with. So I would be very interested to see if there's correlation between, these deaths and if they all were, vaccinated or not.
We will never find out. That's my bet. We will never find out.
No.
I mean, they finally agreed to CDC to kind of start looking into it, but we will never find out.
I know look at all the number of true athletes around the world within the last year or two that have collapsed with heart attacks or have died. It's staggering. It's staggering. Numbers that aren't very public, but if you dig through and kind of look at some stuff, it's like over 1,100, 1,200 within the last couple of healthy, individuals, not obese,
healthy young individuals.
That is not normal.
Well, we'll never know the truth.
At least under this administration, we won't know.
We'll never know.
No.
Don't even get me started on politics. Oh God.
So last year, it was kind of I'm just going through my notes here. So last year is the first time in a while where you didn't qualify for the Olympia, or did you qualify by points?
I ended up qualifying by points, but I got a very late notification and I already kind of shut it down to kind of say, I'm going to get back on everything. It was too far into prep, or too far into what I should have been prepping for. So, I did qualify on points. I had like 24 points, I think it was. And I think, I ended up qualifying by points.
So, we had what, 30 guys on stage? Yeah. And I mean, how you feel about that? And do you think there should be any changes and just kind of get the top 15 on stage there, or is it okay the way it is?
I think the way it landed with the shows that happened at the end of the year before that qualified, and all the shows they ended up having, they cut back on how many people qualify on points. It used to be top 5 on points. Now it's only 3. And then, having only the winner of each division say you have to win the show in order to qualify. So, I mean, I think if you do the required steps to get to Olympia, I think absolutely it's, you deserve to be on that stage if you win a show. But the suck part about it is only, the top 5 or top 10 guys are really getting paid decently. And the other 20 guys, literally like you said, Phil, have put 110% into every bit of their prep, and likely they're losing money in that, So you got to look at bodybuilding like a business too. It's not just, at the end of the day, like you got to put a roof over your head, keep the lights on, and put food in your family's mouth. Like that's ultimately why we do this. We got a passion and love for it, but bodybuilding has to be a business where it's fruitful enough that you could live a good life.
If it can be profitable. If not, then it's a waste of time. It's a great waste.
Yeah.
These days, everybody's making money on social media more than they are competitions, probably.
Yeah. Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
I mean, I can only imagine having started like an online business in the mid-90s, with Instagram page. It would have been freaking paradise. We all would have probably 2 million followers,
absolutely.
Yeah. It'd be hard, a little hard with dial-up though.
No, it's just, when I went to the first Olympia to watch the Olympia, it was in 1995. I was qualified, but I didn't feel like doing it. So I went to watch it in Atlanta. There were about probably 15 guys on stage. And every single one I felt was a huge superstar, when the crowd, how they reacted to every single one, or when you got a glimpse of them on the streets, everybody knew who everybody is.
Yeah.
And last year with 30 people, I mean, there were guys walking through the crowd, who then later placed 16th or so, where half of the people didn't know who they are.
Right.
And
I don't know who they are.
Yeah, I wish they would go back to top 15 in the world. I know that a lot of changes would have to be made. I mean, everybody who wins a show clearly deserves to go on Olympia, but they would have to be changed. I wish they would go back to that again,
I think the Arnold does that. The Arnold keeps it a pretty small field, 10, 12 guys, it's cool because when you're there, the fans know who's doing it. But also, I think expanding into many other divisions have diluted the bodybuilding stage itself. Bodybuilding to me has always been the core of what the Mr. Olympia is and what our sport is truly bodybuilding. So diluting it down, and the people in the U.S. I say are spoiled. You go overseas where the athletes aren't as prevalent. There's not as many. There's not as many shows. Like you're super celebrity over there. you can walk, down anywhere. People are just so used to seeing celebrities here that they're like, no big deal.
Doesn't mean much.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
How you feel about the amount of pro cards they give out?
I think it's a little. There's too many pro cards given out. Absolutely. I think it dilutes the quality of competitors coming up. I think if if you're just like back in the when I was starting up in the early 2000s and in 2010, like I think the national level shows were covered more than pro level shows because everybody knew, hey, who's going to turn pro? And there's only a couple guys, and MD was following all of us around all the time, taking video. They had 10 guys from each big national show they were trying to highlight, and there was a lot of buzz around that. And I think if you just turn everybody pro, there's only one or two guys left at the end of the day for the next year. Okay, this guy's going to turn pro, no big deal. So I think if they cut that back a little bit, it would be beneficial.
Yeah, and I think it would be good for the promoters of the amateur shows. You have a level of competition there, and at the end, you have to pay money to compete in amateur shows. So is there a problem between like the pro division and the promoters? Because I still try to figure out why so many pros, and at the end it always comes down to money. So everybody has to pay like $200 or $300 for a pro card, but all that money is missing in amateur shows because people don't compete anymore. I just wish somebody would really explain to me what is so good about that, and where the money comes into play here.
What's so good about people turning pro, you're asking?
No, it's saying if all those people couldn't turn pro or only 3 or 4 a year, they would have to still competing in amateur shows. The amateur shows get more people to watch it and have more entries through athletes who are not pro yet.
Yeah.
So I just don't get where this whole money argument comes in, because I'm always told, well, it's a money thing. That's why they give out so many pro cards, and I just don't quite see that.
Yeah, it definitely has hurt the numbers of the amateur shows giving out more pro cards, because they were qualifying way too many people for nationals as well. I think it was top 5 they were given for a little while, and everybody was like, "Oh, I'm national qualified. I don't got to go do a national qualifying show, a state level show."
Right.
So that does hurt the pockets of the promoters. I think it is very expensive to put on shows, and if you do it right and do really nice trophies and do nice staging and AV and all that, I like to do for my show, it's not a cheap thing to do. So to me, I love to bring in more competitors and have it, but if everybody just wants to focus on doing nationals or turning pro, like here we are, just like with our hands, I'm like, man, help us out.
In track and field, you can't just go to the nationals. I wish there would be just like a Mr. California, Mr. Texas, whatever, and the top 3 can go to the nationals and nobody else.
Right.
So it's unfortunate, but some very smart people see that different than me. I just like to have this explained a little bit better, but it is what it is. Yeah.
Well, I hate to ask this: do you think it's become all about making money? The organization making money?
Well, I think that's you asking me, Phil?
Yeah, I mean, you're more on the inside.
I think that's a big part of it. There's no doubt. It's a for-profit organization, and they're looking at their bottom dollar at the end of the day. Me personally, I wish there was a little more emphasis on athletes. From the amateur all the way to the pro levels. Like, how do we get these guys? Like, you look at like NFL, like the guys. I believe all of NFL players have like some kind of health insurance. They got a retirement benefit. Like, none of that's involved in.
Of course.
I think those things would be amazing benefits to have for athletes or pros. Like, hey, it's a perk, you turn pro. You get a little bit more than, hey, here's a pro card. I think that's how you take the sport to the next level. If you really want to take it there, if they're okay with kind of keeping it where it is, like that's their agenda. That's great. But I think if you want to take it to the next level, like we all would like to see, we all want to see it. How does it get more mainstream? How do we get more eyes and more money into the show and into the competitors' hands? Like that's what I would love to see.
Right.
Yeah.
You think it would be a good idea if anybody turns pro that he has to do some kind of a, to get the pro card, some kind of health check, like an echocardiogram, stress tests, stuff like that? Or it's just kind of unrealistic to do?
It may be unrealistic to do, but I think that's something people should do. I think, regardless if it's an organizational thing requiring it, it's something that I think guys should look into. If you're like, okay, I'm really going to do this full time and put the amount of effort into it, and the health risks that are involved, it's important to make sure that you cross your T's, dot your I's with things.
So let me throw another name out there. You had kind of quite a few run-ins on stage with Ian last year.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that because you're here. I saw it different, So how did you see that?
With Ian?
Yeah, I mean, just on the ranking level.
Yeah. No, Ian's made a lot of progress the last few years. I think he's got a ton of muscle, and he brings a very, very good condition. I think when you looked at our two physiques, they differ. Mine flows a little differently than his. Has a little more roundness to it. I think he's got he nailed. If you went on just conditioning on the one show, he probably edged me out on the conditioning. If you went on size and symmetry, I probably, again, you're going at the subjectiveness of the judging for that when we competed together. So yeah, I mean, as a competitor, yeah, you want to win. I want to kick his ass, but at the end of the day, I shake his hand and I say, "Great job," and we're off to the next one.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, it was great. I was talking to the guys before you came on, off camera. I'm in the middle of some freak detox program, so my energy level is pretty much at zero. But it's just my day number 12. I don't know why I even get myself into this freaking thing. We have
you're taking it out on Phil tonight, so.
Wait till I get on a low carb diet.
Yeah, he's coming back.
It'll be
the whole thing with this is it's not even low carb. It's no protein and everything is organic and just 3 meals a day. And it's way harder than the diets I'm used to. Back in my days. I have like 1,200 calories a day, but I was convinced by very smart people that I need that. So I lost 10 pounds and have 3 more days to go. But I feel like I'm suffering more than I did back in my days competing for shows.
That's crazy.
I get it. When I think doing that kind of stuff, I'm looking into that now. If not competing and not living the lifestyle of eating 6-7 meals a day, like that's very hard on your digestive tract over the amount of years that we do it. Like I can't eat as much food as I did when I was 25. Then at 35, and then now I'm like, I just don't have the same appetite, nor can I process the amount of food it takes to maintain 280, 285 in contest shape. It takes a huge amount of food. Like I never get to the point where I'm really hungry anymore during prep. I'm stuffed. I'm like, I can't even eat anymore. Like, this is good. Take some food away. I don't care.
Yeah, I'm with you.
At what age do you see yourself definitely not wanting to compete anymore? So you're 37, right?
37, yeah.
So at what age?
I think my cutoff would probably be 40. I wouldn't see myself competing past 40. But a lot of it's just based on, I'm going to listen to my body, and if things aren't working, or if I'm fighting injuries, like, man, my shoulders are destroyed, I'm still going to try to push through. Like, I'm gonna listen to it and based off how that is talking to me.
Have you had any injuries? I meant to ask you that.
I mean, just your common things that you get,
no tears, though, no
tendonitis, no major tears.
Okay.
Some shoulder pain. I've done some treatments of PRP and stem cell, and that's really helped those little nagging injuries that kind of that stick around. So I encourage, like I do that now as like preventative medicine. Like I don't try to fix something that's injured. I'm trying to do stuff to keep my body ahead of the curve.
Right.
So where did you do the stem cells?
I actually did them here in Dallas. I did them here in Dallas.
You did it for certain body parts or a general?
Yeah, I did one treatment where I did bone marrow stem cell from my hip, where they pull out your own bone marrow and extract the stem cell. And I did it in my shoulder, and then I did injections into my back. And those worked really well. I was very happy with that. And then I recently have done a IV stem cell where they do umbilical cord stem cells that are donated from non-aborted fetuses, that kind of stuff. Like it's all done by the book. It's all done in kosher. So that's IV stem cell that I'm looking forward to. I have friends that have done it that have great success with it. So I'm actually doing that too.
Yeah, because I'm absolutely looking into that too. And I have no injuries in that sense, but I want to do like a general for organ kind of stem cell therapy.
I don't think there's, I think, our bodies are made to regenerate, and live for long periods of time. So if you can do things to help it, if you can make, if you have access to stem cells, if you can afford the therapy, if you can, eat the proper nutrition, like you're just going to live better lives, better quality of life.
Yeah. I've done the PRP a couple times. It's helped. Yeah. So now that here's a different question for you, Steve. That football season's over. Are you a Dallas fan?
I am a Dallas fan.
Are you? Yeah, me too.
A Dallas fan.
Yeah. I'll edit this out, but yeah, I am too. So, you think they're going to keep Dak?
I think they got too much money tied up into him. It's a shame. I think they need to get rid of Zeke and Dak.
Zeke definitely needs to go. He's definitely overpaid and underworks, overpaid.
Yeah.
So. Hey, you mentioned hockey. You was playing hockey when you grew up.
Yeah. I was pretty talented. I could have probably played in NHL. Several guys on my team played in NHL. One just recently retired. And I felt like I was at the equal talent, if not a little bit more than a couple of those guys that made it. And I just got the bug to bodybuild. That was kind of the direction that I wanted to pursue. I was more the fighter and kind of enforcer in hockey. And to me, that was going away during when I was kind of coming up in hockey. Like they wanted the talent, the superstars, the goal scorers, when I like to just like take guys' heads off kind of thing. So
no, I think from all the sports I did, that was definitely the one I had the most talent for. But once I started, like you mentioned earlier, that feeling, that pump, it was all over with anything else I did.
Yeah.
I just wanted to do bodybuilding, but some regrets sometimes. My town in Switzerland, it's a very small town of 8,000 people. We have a big tradition there of hockey. We had the #1 draft pick 3 years ago, from our town in Switzerland. Yeah, Hischier plays with the Devils now. Are you following hockey now?
Yeah, I not crazy, but I love when it's on. I watch it, and those guys are some very, very talented athletes. I give hats off to those guys.
Yeah, I'm going to about 15, 20 games a year, and we have an AHL team here in town in Palm Springs. And we're going all the time. I find it absolutely fascinating.
Yeah. So real quick, you were on Shark Tank, and Mark Cuban lives there. Do you ever see him? You ever talk to him?
Oh, I've never really. I know we know some of the same people in some different circles, but never like never really connected. No.
That'd be something good to do.
Yeah.
So you were in Shark Tank?
I was on Shark Tank with one of my brands. Yeah.
How did that go?
It went good. Actually, you could say you won it, however you want to say that.
Yeah. I remember seeing that show. That was pretty cool seeing you come on there.
Yeah, but I could say it now, like after, did it help? It does help business, but it doesn't help as much as maybe the program leads on. It does.
Now, is it true? I read somewhere that you have to sign if you go on that show, no matter what, they still get a percentage of your profit, even if you don't get a deal.
It used to be like that, and then I think it was Cuban was the one that kind of, they like, no matter what, it was like 5% or something of the life of the company that you would have to give to the show, because they looked at it as like, hey, this is your marketing fee for us putting you on the air.
Yeah.
And Cuban's like, that's just not fair to these guys, so they end up not doing that, which was nice.
Yeah. Interesting. And I just found out I don't want to keep talking about this, but the person that does the halftime show, like Rihanna and all that, they don't get paid.
Wow.
They get a budget for what they need to put the show on, but they don't get a salary because they make money off of being on the halftime show.
Oh, that's the union dues. I mean, the minimum union, money they get, but that's it. But
I mean, I could see the benefit to that, but that's crazy because you look at think of the billions of dollars they're making in advertising for the Super Bowl, in ticket sales, and like, man, that's. I'd be crazy. Like, you got to give me a little bit here. Come on.
Yeah, something, but
throw on the bone.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, I got
very good. Yeah,
good. It was absolutely great.
Yeah, thank you again, Steve. I appreciate it.
For sure. Appreciate you guys having me on, man.
Great having you.
Pleasure to meet you again.
Yeah.
Big fan.
Yeah. Good luck with the baby quest.
Yeah.
Best of luck.
Yeah.
Quickly, Steve. One of the anti-aging drugs I take, I started because I was listening to a conversation between Dave and somebody else about his wife not being able to conceive the third child, or not getting pregnant. And then he mentioned L-glutathione. And he said after he started that, his wife was immediately pregnant. Maybe you should look into that. I don't know.
Yeah, I heard him mention that before, and I actually started that in the recent. So that was something I added to the repertoire. So
very good.
I always look at it. If Dave Palumbo could do it, and Branch Warren could do it, and some of these other guys, I think we'll be all right.
Right.
Hell yeah.
Absolutely.
All right, guys.
Thank you.
All right,
thanks
Steve,
again.
Great having you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys.